Party, it's the European Union House. The idea today is to have a discussion about the actual content of the Charter of Fundamental Rights, which the Labour Party obviously are very keen on, fought hard to have incorporated as legally binding elements of the, first of all, the Constitution, and subsequently of the treaty. The subsequently became known as the Treaty of Lisbon. So Joe Costello is going to chair today's events, and you won't have to hear any more from me for the rest of the afternoon, unless they say something that I disagree with. Of course, I'd be popping up and down at that point. But I'd hand you over to Joe.
The meeting has been organised around an issue which is certainly very dear to the heart of the Labour Party, and that's about the Charter of Fundamental Rights, the entire social agenda that is encompassed by all of that, and how effectively it does encompass the values and the ethos of much of what we've been doing for nearly a century now in the Labour Party. But what we want to do today is to sort of tease out the implications, the actual components of the Charter, and to look at its implications and look how this new legally binding document, what role it will play once the Lisbon Reform Treaty is adopted.
I mean, today's event clearly is in the context of the referendum campaign itself, which, although there isn't an actual date set for it yet, is in effect already underway. And last week I spoke at the National Forum on Europe, where I had the opportunity of speaking for the best part of a half an hour to set out the reasons why the Labour Party is arguing for a yes vote in the referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. The difficulty I think that we are going to have in the months ahead is how to explain that in a couple of minutes, standing at a doorstep or standing in somebody's sitting room when somebody says, "Well, why should I vote for this?" And we won't have a half an hour to give the kind of reasoned argument about what is actually quite a complex and difficult text as far as the treaty is concerned. And thinking about it, there are, I think, three essential reasons why people should vote for the Lisbon Treaty. The first is that it makes the European Union more effective. It makes it more democratic, and it brings us closer to the kind of European Union that the Labour Party wants to see. It makes it more effective, first of all, because Europe is functioning in a global context. Global economy, we know all of the issues, many global challenges, climate change and so on. And for Europe to be able to pursue progressive policies and progressive approaches to these challenges and to these issues, it's necessary that the European Union itself is able to make decisions in an effective way. And that's clearly more difficult if you move from a situation where you have 15 member states to 27 member states. So if you like, the institutional arrangements and decision-making arrangements and so on, many of which are quite complex and interrelated and so on in the text of the treaty, are essentially about making the European Union more effective so that Europe itself, the European Union, can play a more active and effective role in both world politics and the world economy and so on. The second is that it makes Europe more democratic. It's one thing to move to make decision-making more efficient and effective, but how do you do that and at the same time ensure that decision-making is more democratic? And I think that the Lisbon Treaty does succeed in doing that. Legislative decisions to be made by the Council, to be made in public for the first time. The powers of the elected European Parliament, the democratic arm, directly elected democratic arm of the Union strengthened, increased powers for national parliaments, more active role for national parliaments for the first time in the actual framing and shaping of European law, and of course the proposals for a citizens' initiative which brings the citizen very much into the decision-making process and into the initiation of European legislation. And the third, which is really the one that today's event is about, is that the treaty goes a considerable distance towards building the kind of Europe that we in the Labour Party and that our sister parties across Europe, in the Social Democratic Movement and the Party of European Socialists across Europe, want to see. And that is essentially the incorporation of the Charter of Fundamental Rights into the European treaties, giving it the same legal status as the rest of the treaties. And that is a very significant advance forward for the citizens of Europe. Previous treaties could be, I suppose, defined in terms of what they did for the institutions of Europe. Single European Act, Maastricht, which of course was the political union, the Euro, Amsterdam, Nice, basically about enlargement. I think the defining characteristic of the Lisbon Treaty is the extent to which it is a citizens' treaty, that it's about promoting and supporting and underpinning the rights of citizens in Europe through the Charter of Fundamental Rights.